All right, ready to go? Welcome to the Catalog. My name is Justin Wood, and we are going to be talking about what digital products can be. And digital products are often thought of as something that's built in a basement by some solo founder who goes from basement to billionaire 99.97% of the time. That is not the case. Usually it takes an amazing team of people coordinated in amazing ways to get a startup from seed to Series A and beyond. So I have two people who know a lot about teams with me. I have Erik from Workwolf and I have Emile from EDS Education. We're going to be talking about teamwork and building teams and maintaining teams. Erik has a software called Workwolf, which is all about recruiting. Erik, do you want to tell us a little bit about Workwolf?
Yeah, sure. So Workwolf is, I guess, in the category of HR tech, so human resource technology. And in a previous life, still owned the staffing business, but come from a staffing background. And so recognized pretty early on that a lot of the friction that was found in the hiring process of identifying the right people could be and would be eliminated eventually. And I thought, well, if somebody's going to do it, it might as well be me. So, I started the journey 7 years ago of automating a lot of the manual tasks in hiring, and then adding some predictive elements to the technology that would allow you to be able to predict performance outcome long after you make the hire. Trying to interview people and just look at a resume and identify, is this person actually going to fit in my environment, is really hard to do. You don't usually find out until about 3 months after they're in the job, because everyone's on their best behavior, right? Mm-hmm. All the teams on their best behavior, managers on their best behavior. But if the person actually isn't built to do the job in terms of their persona and their behavioral attributes, they may struggle for a while, but they won't be happy. So the idea is, and what our technology is doing or trying to do, is to be able to anticipate whether or not they're going to perform well in specific positions that are aligned with existing cultures of our customers.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that really goes. I love that you said they're on their best behavior, because behavior is what Emile is really focused on with teams. So, Emile, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at EDS and maybe touch on that behavior aspect of things?
Yeah, so we're a leadership development, high performance culture consultancy. Our purpose is to help our clients elevate the capacity of their people. So we really play in the teamwork and cooperation space. We define culture as how we cooperate. There's all these different ways to define culture, but if you keep it real simple, it's how we as a group of people cooperate. So we spend a lot of time helping leaders engineer environments that optimize human cooperation, because I think one of the fallacies is when you get great talented people together, you let them just do their own thing. The world moves way too fast. Information is getting transferred throughout teams too quickly just to let people just go. I think leaders have to spend more time engineering environments that allows the teamwork to come to life. And so a lot of that's derived around the behaviours that you want to see role modelled, A, by your leaders, but then B, by the people that you lead. And redefine leadership just simply as role modelling. If your leaders behave this certain way, your team members seem to do that. So we'll spend a lot of time helping leaders get really clear on the behaviours that they want to see throughout their organisation, how to build strong professional relationships with their people. That's a real skill, and AI can't do that one. And then how do we simplify process and embed rituals that allows that teamwork and allows that cooperation to come to life? So if you don't do it intentionally, you do leave it. It may happen accidentally. We'd rather say, let's just do it intentionally. And a lot of that comes with how are you creating the environment for that talent to perform. So kind of taking Erik's work and then going, now that you've picked the right people, what's the environment that you want to create to see that cooperation thrive?
Yeah. And I think what one thing I'd really like to start on is that how do you find that right person? Erik, you talked a little bit about, and Emile, you talked about this too, like take the role model and the leader and the culture. Everyone's on their best behavior in a job interview, but how do you sift through the bullshit and say like, okay, this person's wearing their suit and tie today, but like who are they going to show up, and how do you get to the core of that, especially on the recruiting side, when you have maybe 4 or 5 meetings with someone and a pile of applicants? How do you get to that core of things, Erik?
Interviewing will only take you so far because you've got biases, right? And a lot of the times in the first pass with some of our, our larger customers, in the first pass, it's not even the person who actually understands the role or the manager looking at the resumes. It's a junior recruitment coordinator. And so they're looking for keywords within a resume, and they could miss a lot. So a lot of the times the finalist list actually isn't even the best finalist list. A lot of people are missed. So what our technology does is it'll go out first to the customers, and the customers will do what we call the Pack Finder, which is our psychometric assessment. And the entire team does the assessment. And then the managers will rank whatever KPIs the managers use for performance. They'll rank everybody on the team in terms of best in class and worst in class performance. And then we look at 8 or 9 different elements, and we'll be able to see the coefficients or the differences between let's say integrity as one of the categories. The best performers and the worst performers may have both of those really highly ranked. So we throw that out and we look at maybe the 2 or 3 that are the real differentiators between the top and the bottom performers. And then every applicant coming into our customers' job posts has to do the same psychometric assessment. And then what our tech does is it'll stack rank them based on the performance indicators in terms of behavioral assessment. And then we'll also stack rank them based on experience and skills that are required for the job. So out of, let's say, 250 applicants, you'll get your top 10 or 15 performers that'll be best suited for the culture, and then you'll get your top 10 or 15 best skill and experience match. And depending on the job, the customers can weigh which is more important. So if it's, let's say, a super strong sales culture where competitive sales skills are really important, then they can rank or scale that higher in terms of we'll rank that at 70% importance. And then the skills and experience, we just care if they have a degree. So it's maybe 30%. And then it just queues them up like a curated list, like a recruiter would do, but without the biases associated with a recruiter.
That's interesting, because so much is, if you look at recruiting, so much is, do you do HTML, CSS? Do you do this, right? And Emile, you were like, the behavior and those things can be learned. Right, like I can teach you how to update a content management system. Yeah, but I can't teach you integrity. Right, so why have we given so much weight to keywords and instead of values and behavior?
Yeah, because it's easier.
It's easier.
It's easier. Yeah, it's easier to track competency and people can speak to their skills. It's more difficult to talk about behaviour, which is why, we promote in the current model we have, you have to call referees and you have to ask questions that are behaviour driven. So once you've got a team code, a cooperation code, which for us is the combination of their purpose, their principles, and then their team behaviours, ask questions through the behaviours. Because it's difficult to bullshit behaviour. When you get a question about, hey, explain a time when you insert behaviour, and then they dance around it, right? So then you go, oh, yeah, right. Or tell us a time where you didn't display this behaviour and they dance around it again. So, and again, when you think about teamwork, Google did a massive study a number of years ago, what makes their best teams, 180 teams over a 2-year period, Project Aristotle, and psychological safety was number 1. On what was the determining factor of their best teams? A psychologically safe environment. There was 4 other, but the data was so conclusive. Without that psych safety, the other 4 attributes didn't even sort of come to life. Their hypothesis the question to their sort of, the answer to their question was safer teams beat smarter teams. And so when you get highly competent people, they can fall trap to arguing, which is me trying to convince you you're wrong and you trying to convince me I'm wrong. And then even though you're right, I still fight to defend my ego. Mm-hmm. Safer teams debate and put it on the table and then go, right, what's best? Mm-hmm. And then who cares whose idea was best? We just move forward as a team. So I think the short answer is it's easier to talk about competencies and skills. It's actually a little bit more difficult to speak about behaviour. So that's why you've got to bring it into that recruitment process, I believe, anyway.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that's interesting too, Erik, you were talking about was recruiting isn't a one-person thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's like before you actually do bring someone onto your team, it's a collaborative thing to understand what people need people in different ways, mm-hmm. right? When you're building a team, it's where some people need support in one way, others need support in another way, right? So like, how do you guys, you talked a little bit about how the software does that, but like, how important is collaboration before you actually go out and hire someone? Like understanding how someone is going to fit in many ways within a team.
Mm. I think it's essential, but very hard to identify until they get in play. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it's difficult. That's why if the role requires collaboration, what's the behavior mm-hmm. that drives collaboration? Mm-hmm. Then as you're recruiting, ask their previous employers or whoever it might be about that particular behavior, right? Because the talented team, talent gets you so far. We see it all the time in sport. The most talented team doesn't necessarily win. Yeah. Sometimes we've had a chat that last week, didn't we? Sometimes the teams that are straight, like even the goal.
Yeah, we were talking about
Knights.
We were talking about Chelsea. I was lamenting about Chelsea, but we won over the weekend. So so I'm feeling a little less dismayed about. Like billion dollar teams that just don't gel together. Yeah. Right.
If that was the case, the richest teams would just win because they just buy the best talent. That doesn't necessarily equate.
Depends which league. Depends which league you go into.
Absolutely, it does sometimes. Yeah. So when you're with your work there, Erik, I would imagine that there has to be clarity on what you need the role to do. Mm-hmm. Like that's almost step one, and I see that as a miss for many companies. Yeah. They don't actually define the role first. Yeah. And then they throw out a job description. It's just a load of stuff. It's just often a laundry list.
Often the job descriptions aren't written by the hiring manager either.
Right, there you go.
Which is, and it's so important. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do
you got to spend the time and you got to go through. Right. And ideally as a manager, you actually want to probably include the people who are doing the job, right? In writing and crafting the job description. Yeah. Right. Help me write this. You get everybody who's doing the job to collaborate, put their 2 cents in, and as the manager, you oversee, you pull what you need to pull, but it takes time. Yeah. It takes time. But it's essential. I mean, there's nothing more important than the people you have on your team working towards your goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny too, because who does it benefit the most, right? Like you sometimes you see you build a team and all the people that are doing the day-to-day work, they just get someone who's plopped down with like, here's what the hiring manager or the, someone on the executive side of things has chosen for you.
Yeah. We hope it works.
Yeah, we hope it works, right? But I want to go back to the psychometric assessment and like, so what kind of things are built into that?
So I think it's about 140 questions, takes about 14 minutes. And we work with an industrial psychologist and we use some really big data from the U.S. Department of Labor. And so, billions of data points to be able to extrapolate some refined questions to really pinpoint how people are going to act in certain situations. Yeah.
Do you have any examples off the top of your head?
Of questions?
Yeah.
I don't.
No.
But what I would recommend.
We were talking at Erik's office the other day. I was like, I want you to, I haven't been on a job interview in a decade. Can you please grill me here. I want to see if I still got it.
I interview very differently now than I used to because we have the pack finder ahead of time for anyone we hire. And so then I'll go more into the behavioral questions, right? And like, tell me about, the most difficult thing that's ever happened to you and how did you deal with it? Right? So you can see if people are being honest. And a lot of times people will have, particularly in an interview setting, right? They want to impress. They have challenges being open and being vulnerable. And that's really important in a team dynamic, right? It's something you want people to be able to be confident enough to be honest.
And ask for help.
Yeah.
That's a really big determinant of trust. So Brene Brown's research she speaks about the people you can trust the most are the ones that ask for help the fastest. That's just a display of vulnerability, right? Yeah. And that's why the safer teams beat smarter teams, because they're more likely to go, hey, I'm struggling here. I'm lagging. I'm holding us back. I need help.
Yeah.
No worries. That's what teams do, right? You see it and the great thing about sport is you're watching people behave. You're watching a player sacrifice their player at the risk of them getting the ball, backing in that my teammate needs more help. Like American football is a pretty good example when you get to watch it from up high and you can see the game. You'll see cornerbacks go, nah, my guy's not going to get the ball. I'll go and help my other guy, the double team, and they do that for the betterment of the team. I don't think we do that as well as we could in business. But again, it comes back down to time.
Well, American football is a great example too, just in the body shape of each player. Like you have those linebackers that are like
perfect.
Are they feeding? What are they feeding this guy, right? But and his career is like a 3-year career because of head injuries, right?
But it's a testament to mastery. I often think about, because I grew up with Aussie rules football, which where even the 6'10" guys and the 5'2" guys have to do a bit of everything, right? And fundamentally, you have to have the similar skills. Obviously, your role's a bit different. But then I come over to North America and watch the NFL, and I'm like, that player essentially doesn't touch the ball for their entire career, and they do one fundamental, they do a lateral move and stop another big guy, or they do a lateral move the other way, and then there's better versions of that. Like this player's way better than that player for doing one move. Like it's testament to mastery, right? Yeah. And you can't hire a linebacker to be a wide receiver, and that's what I think we're doing in business. But your tool sounds like it actually identifies who's fit for a linebacker and who's fit for a wide receiver. Now let's have the conversation. Yeah, perfect. Love it.
Yeah. I want to go back to trust because, and this is kind of the second segment I want to talk about is with AI and sameness in resumes and it's really the core of what lots of this conversation has been about is behavior gets to that core trust, right? If we're living in a world where everybody has the same resume, it's all generated to the point where I've also heard hiring managers say that they have this camera test now. So if they're doing a video interview with somebody, something that they may submit, they'll ask them to put their hand in front of their face because people are actually applying to jobs with an AI version of themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
holy moly.
Okay, so I'm straight up Terminator 2 Judgment Day. My approach with AI is like, how do we beat the machines always?
Yeah.
Right. So in the world of recruiting, building corporate teams, what you guys are saying is that behavior equals trust, right? Behavior, integrity, and finding those stories brings out trust. So how do we take that into a 2020s version of recruiting and team building, and how do we build that into how we recruit and build teams more?
So when we first started building Workwolf, we put a patent application in for the digital work passport. Okay, and it's the use of distributed ledger technology and the use of validating information for the recruitment process. And we just got our verbal like 2 weeks ago that we got the patent. So I got my first patent. It's just
nice.
pretty cool, man. Because I'm not a technical guy, right? By the way, just a little little note, if you're starting a tech company, make sure you have a technical founder with you. Because trying to find and identify whether or not people could code or not when I'm not a coder was really, really hard. Took me a couple of years and a lot of money. So you want to have a technical founder for sure. But our tagline is unleash the power of truth, right? So the digital work passport's purpose is to increase the veracity of the resume. So it is a digital repository where credential issuers, whether it be a background checker or a previous manager, can input validated information directly from the person who's the governing resource of that information. And the difference with this is that the individual controls access to that information. They cannot falsify the information in any way. They can't tamper with it, but they have control over granting or denying access to that digital work passport. So it's like very similar to like a nexus, right? So the idea is that you can build your veracity of your resume over time. And if you speak to any HR manager, if they've got 100 resumes or 10 resumes, and 10 resumes have all of the claims and credentials on those validated by an issuer versus 10 that aren't, they're going to take the ones that are, or look at the ones that are validated way sooner, right? It's just like they don't have to question the information that's on it. So the long-term goal for me is to eradicate the resume. It's what we've been using for the last 70 years, and create a new digital passport that basically has all of the information that employers need already validated.
It's funny because I don't know if you guys have had this in your career, but how many really good hires have you had from somebody that was recommended to you?
That's a good question. I was going to say we've had lots. So I'd say that referrals through good sources trumps sorting resumes any day.
Any day.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
How about you? It sounds like you haven't had the best experience.
Little from column A, little from column B. I mean, it goes back to the trust thing, right? It's
it does. Speed of trust.
Yes, trust
Nothing is faster.
You can, as humans, we get trust through the stories that we tell from each other, right? So going to this digital passport example, or from the behavior example. Oh, you got to work with this person. They came in, they built my startup. They took it from here to here. We went through the trenches on this stuff. Like if I look at anybody that I'm recommending in my career, there's a story behind every single one of those recommendations. And they're usually not the nicest stories, but they allow that integrity, those values of people to shine throughout. Because that's, you know what? An AI can generate any resume. What it can't generate is the experience and the stories that we create
100%
as human beings on this planet. Sorry, I'm getting philosophical.
No, it's good. Well, I mean, to lean on that, so much of culture is built through storytelling. Think about it, for thousands of years, we only had storytelling as a means to communicate, which is why it's important that when in the recruiting process, you're asking the referees and the individual to tell stories of living XYZ. And stories are filled with behaviour, the relationships they had to forge to get success or failure, and the process they followed. So you automatically live what we call the 3 parts of the formula: your code and the behaviours, the relationships you had to forge to create that, get that outcome, whether it's good or bad, and the process you had to follow. And then as you say, you build trust through those stories. And so then when you get a good referral, it generally comes with, the reason why I'm referring this person is for these stories, right?
Yeah, and if you look at the professional, like if we're looking at top people, right? We're looking at the high performers. That's what we're looking for. The sports world is very much a mirror of that. That doesn't happen in the corporate world. Maybe on the CEO level, something like that. But high performance athletes have agents. They have representation because of their talent, right? And I think in the digital world, there is a huge gap between the stack of resumes on LinkedIn and the validated third-party stories of the top performing people and their journeys through their careers, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that plays into it.
I think that you touched on something there, the word journey. I was just reading one of Adam Grant's books, maybe originals. Anyway, he was talking about the difference between there's a story in the book about an astronaut who was an immigrant from Mexico, farmer, grew up in poverty, got to America and worked his way to becoming an astronaut, right? That journey is massive compared to a young white guy from America who went to a prestigious university and became an astronaut. That journey is about that, but still an amazing effort, don't get me wrong, but to go from Mexico, immigrant and poverty to becoming, so getting people to share the story of their journey. It's not necessarily the height of their journey and the achievements of their journey. It's the distance they had to travel just to get where they are. And that's why storytelling again is I love just ask, tell me how you got here. And then you can start to see where they track and go, well, good. So the journey of a person and what it took to get from A to B is incredibly powerful because you can just put two and two together. If you've started here and you got here, that's an incredible amount of tenacity, persistence, manage adversity compared to here, right? Again, storytelling becomes critical in understanding a person's journey.
Yeah, I think last year I was like, I'm going to update my resume. I don't know, I was having one of those like entrepreneur moments where I'm like, which is like every other day is like, should I just quit and get a job? Like that's like every other day, right? But I was started writing and I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. Like this entire process is kind of like, how do I write this out? And
it's a big waste of time.
And
writing about your achievements is a fantastic exercise though.
What I started doing was I was like, I just went into my Google Photos and I dropped a picture of my my computer set up in my shitty old apartment when I first started. And I was like, this was my agency at the time. And then I dropped a photo of me at like medieval times with a king crown on and I was like, this is when I was a big asshole. But like these are the things, right? But I think there's when it comes to digital products and people, we're going to talk a little bit about the digital products, you guys, your journey into that, but when it comes to team building, it is a massively competitive market in HR, recruiting, all that. But I often say to people, like, just because something's competitive, that's a sign that there's a huge need for it, right? There is this paper resume that we've put, we've formatted the fields of that resume and we put it into a website called LinkedIn that Microsoft then acquired for, a couple $1 billion some long time ago. And we're moving into a world where people don't hire like they used to. The people who are successful now are creating their own shit. They're taking entrepreneurial journeys. They're the real guts of what makes them a good member of your team doesn't fit that template. Right? So I guess my question is for you guys, like, where do you see, I love your mission. I want to destroy the resume. What does that world look like?
Well, it's, it really, so we've had about 500,000 applicants now through our system, maybe more. And every one of those applicants has a digital work passport. They don't know it though. Right. So they're set up in the system, but I think there needs to be a transition where people start to understand that veracity or truthfulness in terms of what your story is, and being able to present that front and center and being proud of that is a differentiator, right? So it eliminates the questions that come up, or it eliminates the doubt that can prevent somebody from getting to the next step in an interview. So a big task for us now, because we've been focused on the employer side as our customers, we're now shifting, and we just got a $500,000 grant from the provincial government to help us help people. So let's say the average number of resumes in our system is 200. Okay, there's 199 applicants that get ghosted. Right? They typically don't get a response back from the employer. So we've built that into the system to make it easy for the employer to get back to them and say, thank you very much. We don't have anything, but we can do more for them, right? So now that we have their psychometrics and we have 170 other customers on the platform where we understand the exact psychometrics for their top performers, we can now make recommendations to those candidates and say, look, you didn't get this job, and there's probably a good reason why, because you're not built for it.
Right.
You're not going to be happy in that job, but we have 7 other positions right now that match your potential extremely well. Would you like to be put forward for that?
Yeah, and that I just think of that reciprocity, what you were talking about there. I want to jump on that. I remember my first business was Aussie X. We taught kids in schools Aussie rules, football, netball, and cricket. So we'd get these Aussies off the boat, fresh off the boat, on a 2-year work visa. And a lot of them were landscapers, plumbers, they were just 24, 25, looking for the time of their life while they still could do it. And they weren't trained up to be phys ed teachers, which we sort of essentially were makeshift phys ed teachers for a week or whatever at the school. But what I found really interesting is we had this process where they had a 2-day initiation, and then at the end of the 2 days, the lead energizer would say yes or no to go to the next 3. And the next 3 was they would partially start to teach, and by the end of the week, they had to get another yes to go into our thing. But we got so clear on who we were and what we stood for through extraordinary impact, which was our internal compass, that by recess of the first day, we would send back the person going, no, they're not. And then I set up relationships with builders and tradespeople. And I'd say, right, you're not suited for us, but I've got work for you over here. And talk about referrals, going back to that conversation, we got most referrals from the guys that we put into the trades, and their mates came over and they said, hey, Emile, I got a mate coming over. I think he's good for you. I know that I'm not. But I reckon he is. They were instantaneous. So the people we didn't employ ended up becoming almost the biggest evangelists for the new people that we did. Interesting. Because they made the connection that, I don't want to stand in front of 30 kids and dance around like an emu and a kangaroo. It's not for me. No worries, mate. Because you're going to have to do that. Right? And you raise a really good point. Everyone wants to go to work and have a contribution and progress in their role. Yep. Even if I wanted to be an accountant or, get into the finance and the numbers, and I busted my ass to be the best I could be, I'd still be shit. Yeah. I'm an extroverted person who loves people, and I get energy from being around people. I lose energy from looking through and sorting out data. So why would I go in and I see it a lot. People have for whatever reason, they've got into an occupation or university or whatever, and it's not what they're actually wired for. Yeah. And then you struggle all throughout your career to become something that you innately are not. Yeah. So that's why I love this idea of, hey, you've gone for this role, but you're better for this one. That's a beautiful thing. I reckon it's great.
Yeah, and that's a level of understanding that a resume won't tell you, right? And so many experiences myself. Hey, you're really not working out here, but hey, this startup that they really need an engineer who can put their head down, get shit done, like
bang it out.
For us, we're gonna be a YouTube channel. You're gonna be on the videos all the time, right? Yeah. But so I think that's really good. And I think that we get, that's the core of it, right? The core of it is, you might have a system that really filters you out and gets you like I didn't get that job interview. Oh, I didn't get that level. Maybe it's better for you that you didn't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to switch the gears a little bit towards digital products. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
Both of you have went from service offering into building digital products. Workwolf again, come from staffing, recruiting background, and Emile as well. You have a whole process that you do in your coaching, but you have a digital product around that too. So I guess my question is, I have a digital project that I'm working on as well, and I always said to myself, don't fucking build it. Don't fucking build it. Like, just don't build that interface. It's good. Once you go in, you're going to be invested into it.
Yeah.
When I'm sure you guys had that thought in your mind, maybe you didn't, but I work with a lot of startups, so I know.
Yeah.
I know the failure rate, right? When did you decide that I need an interface for this? I need this to be a digital platform. What made you guys make that decision?
I thought that the job of a recruiter, there was probably 85-90% of it that was just manual sorting, right? And I thought that this eventually will be automated, and there was no way I could create an automation to it without a digital product. So that was kind of the inclination that I need to go out and I need to figure out how to build something that's going to be, easy for a 4-year-old to use, or your grandma to be able to pick up and use it, but still do some really cool things on the back end to be able to eliminate a lot of the work that recruiters do and eventually do it better than they can do.
Emile?
Yeah, for us, it was, so prior to COVID, 99% of what we did was in person, right? Not even virtual meetings. I would literally go to a client for an hour meeting. We would also, as part of our process, we facilitate feedback. So open, honest conversations about performance, trying to bring a little bit of that sport energy in where the feedback is just little and often. It just becomes talk, right? So we were capturing quite a lot of information on paper. Then I was getting a virtual assistant to type it up. We were helping teams build their code, their cooperation code, and then trying to embed it to use it consistently. And much to you, I just started to think this should be automated, right? And at the end of the day, if we can help leaders make values-based decisions using their code at a more frequent rate and get them information and structures and environments that allows them to understand their people better, make decisions using their code. And also we find great value in, if I get feedback on March 21st and then we do another feedback session June 21st, I want to see the growth. I might have said, hey, Emile, keep doing this. We love you for this, but we think you need to improve on this. That qualitative data is powerful, because when I come back on June 21st and the team go, hey, we see your effort. Now, you haven't nailed it. You've still got ways to go, but we see, and I think this is one of the things, the challenges of leadership. It can be quite lonely, and I think we need to turn leadership into a team sport. And in our work, the first person who gets feedback is actually the leader, not the other way around, because the leader has to serve the people. So getting that information and allowing that leader to hear what the team needs for them, change behavior, and then get confirmation that the team is saying, hey, we see your effort. Keep doing that, right? So being able to use that information on a more frequent basis, it's accessible. It just became clear we needed a platform to and the way we've designed it so far is it mirrors our consulting. So it's actually quite a sticky piece of tech because it's just embedded into the coaching. We haven't built a platform and now trying to figure out how to use it. It's just, you just use it as you go through the process. So again, how do we get that information and use it on a more frequent basis to make good values-based decisions? And I think we touched on something before as well. People's life changes. It's constantly changing. Like if my wife and I got pregnant again and had an unexpected third kid, life would be completely different.
Oh yeah, I know about that. It would be different.
Right. Now, if I was in a fast-paced startup tech business as an employee, and I was expected to maintain a certain level of ferocity and competency and commitment, it's probably going to dip when the third kid comes along. So being able to catch that and go, hey, are you up for this, Emile? You know what? I'm not. Great. Do you want to take a couple of years off? I do. I've got somewhere for you. And Patty McCord talks about this beautifully in her book, Powerful, the lady who helped build the Netflix culture before they became the big thing that they were. Sometimes you've got team members that are better suited somewhere else. And again, that reciprocity, that gift of saying, hey, we're moving way too fast for you, but there's a job over in Facebook. Yeah, and she would do that a lot. She would hand people over and then it would come back in spades the other way around. So being able to give data to leaders and again, it's got to be married with the conversation. This is the big part for us. It's one thing to have the tech, but it's the human conversation. Like if you fill out a feedback form on a teammate, it's not one thing to send it to them and go, hey, deal with that. It's let's now have the conversation and what support are we going to give that person on their journey. And that's, I think, the really important part of your work and our work. There's got to be the human connection married with the digital product.
Yeah, and I think we're going into a wave, especially with AI, breaking down some barriers on how you generate content, how you do all these things, right? The real best businesses come from someone who just had a problem and like just got tired of solving the same problem over and over again. And they're like, okay, well, this problem is so annoying that it can be done at scale. Yeah. Therefore, I need to productize. Yeah. I need to productize. And what really excites me so much is a lot of consultants, service providers, people in the like HR, legal space, they're productizing their services now, right? They're saying, I think that's going to be the next, I'd say like app boom is really highly specialized people that are great at solving problems, taking what they do, productizing it into a digital product that has data connected to it, that can be exposed through an API to, that's the world we're going into, right? So we'll end it there. We all are building digital products that we love this. Thanks for being on the Katalog, guys. This was an amazing conversation. And on to the next one. We'll talk soon.